And good afternoon, everybody. This is Art Shed. It's time for the show. Let's be reasonable. Today, we have a short story brought to you today by the New York Times. It's Byron Donalds, a Trump VP contender, suggests that Jim Crow era had an upside. Right. So, who is Byron Donald, you might ask? He is from the great state of Florida. He's a Republican representative. He's also on that list of potential running mates for with Donald Trump in the 2024 election. Um, as a member of the House of Representatives, he was at an event on Tuesday, Congress, Cognac, and Cigars. That was in Philadelphia, where he said the following. You see, during Jim Crow, the black family was together. During Jim Crow, more black people were not just conservative, because black people have always been conservative minded, but more black people voted conservatively. So that's what was said by Representative Donald. Um, We're not going to get into whether or not that's true or not right now, but we'll just get to the end of the story and talk about it. All right, so that comment was followed up by a spokesperson from the Biden administration, Serafina Chiquita. I do believe that's right. No, Chitika. Yeah. Anyway, she indicates that Donald Trump spent his adult life and his presidency undermining the program or the progress black communities fought so hard to actually obtain. And she thought it was interesting and actually tracks that his campaign's black outreach is going to white neighborhoods, which is true, in order to take America back to Jim Crow. So, one piece of hyperbole meets another piece of hyperbole, but Hakeem Jeffries got into the game, right, where he's a representative from the great state of New York. Also, he is the minority leader. He indicated that his comments were outlandish, outrageous, and out of pocket observation. He points Donald back to Jim Crow and Jim Crow era lynching and the inequalities during the Jim Crow era, right? And tells him to check himself before he wrecks himself. There's that, right? So, and of course, Donaldson fires back. Donaldson fires back, indicates that he was talking about the black family under Jim Crow and the Democrat policies under HEW, which became the Health and Human Resource or Health and Human Services, destroyed the black family. All right. So, in a nutshell, what Donalds is trying to say is that there were more black married couples during Jim Crow. That part is right. Now, the rest of that he's saying, blaming it on HEW, statistically, you can look at the numbers and say that there's probably a correlation. However, I cannot say that that is the end all and be all. I'm just being reasonable. When you look at it empirically, there is a lot of moving parts, right? So I will tell you this: African Americans were moving away from the Republican Party prior to the 1960s, right? In fact, when you look at the black cabinet that took place, or the black cabinet under FDR during the 1930s, that was in response to the Hoover administration, right? Because the Hoover administration, they didn't want anything to do with black community. Okay, so uh, the Roosevelt administration decided to have some outreach to the African American community, and they appointed a black cabinet and showed a willingness to kind of figure out what was going on. Remember, during the Great Depression, everybody's out of a job. You got the alphabet soup of agencies that are starting to come up, right? And there's money out there. And even during this period, African Americans are having a hard time securing jobs and securing money. My mother, I mean, she was born in the late 1930s, but she would tell stories about how they were so poor during this particular period that all of the aid was reserved for white people. She remembered that, or was told that story and recalled that story to us. Um, and there's a few people that she would name, like Governor Bilbo, and who was actually Senator Bilbo. And I guess his platform was to back to Africa, right? And somewhere in that, she just recalled the story how uh, they never, she never really said that they were Republican, but she did say that they were conservative. So he's right from the standpoint that African Americans are conservative. And I'll be the first to echo that. I do believe that the African Americans are probably more conservative than most of your evangelical conservatives. That's saying something. But being that conservative doesn't mean that they don't have compassion, because they do. Because the first group of people to, well, you might say, extend a hand to the LBGTQ XYZ group. And I'm sorry, I just don't know all the letters. And of course, I'm going to get them wrong. Right. But my point is, African Americans were first to do that. So they are uber conservative. However, they started moving or gravitating to the Democrat Party during the 1930s, not the 1960s. And it wasn't because of HEW and all those. There's some other internal dynamics that's happening there, and it could just be the fact that one side was willing to reach out while the other side wasn't. And that's what you see. Look, I'm going to tell you, you can go back even to the Civil War and remember the Freedmen Bureau bills that came out during 1865. That was by Republicans, right? It wasn't codified or shrined into law. It needed to be, it's sunset there. In other words, there were sunset provisions that I think it had to be re-upped every Congress. And at some point, I mean, Republicans have control. When they stopped re-upping it in 1872, it was the Republicans that decided to do that. It wasn't Democrats that said don't vote for this. Republicans decided not to. So for everybody who tells me that African Americans need to vote Republican, I'm here to tell you that Republicans have a history of not going all the way. So um, if you ever sit down with somebody and they want to know why African Americans don't vote Republican, and I'm here to tell you that it's because Republicans never close a deal. I mean, the Freedmen Bureaus were a great thing, but not only did they do that, but they made it possible for um, uh, Southern Democrats to get back into office. They made it, they didn't, they removed the ban. So um, that, might say led to the KKK and the rest of it, right? So you can look at Democrats and say, oh, well, Democrats represent the Klan. I'm here to tell you that Republicans may not represent the Klan, but they're not really solid on doing the whole work. So there's that. And I'm not here to, yeah, look. This is the reason why when I talk to my African American friends, I tell you it shouldn't be either one, Democrat nor Republican. Personally, personally, I mean, your vote is sacred, which speaks to another issue too, because it is sacred, but you have to also understand that Voting Rights Act of 64, 65, all of these acts that came out of the 90s, they're not codified or enshrined into legislation or into congressional bills. They need to be re-upped. And every 4 years or every 10 years, whatever the number is, when you see the people or the party that balks at it or has a problem with it, and they can say they have a problem with it. I'm talking about Republicans. They can say they have a problem with it because we've moved to a different space in this country. But I'm here to tell you that a lot of the discrimination It's just been pushed underground. It still exists. And if you think that it doesn't, then, tell me why you think it doesn't. But if you can sit here and say that the discrimination does exist, you can say that we shouldn't have a problem. Well, one, enshrining these protections into law. That way you don't have to read up it and it doesn't sunset, right? And two, you can have better outreach. I mean, because this country it's a multicultural country. So you have to be looking at everybody. But there's clearly a party that gives lip service to it better than the other. And that's true. I mean, and I look, like and subscribe, but give me your comments. If you think I'm wrong, tell me that I'm wrong. And I made the comment that it's one hasty generalization that serves up another hasty. Tell me where you think. I don't think that Byron Donalds is wrong about the black family. There were more black married families during the 19 well prior to the civil rights legislation. That much is true. But I think it's a little bit more convoluted and complex to suggest that the decoupling happened because of the civil rights legislation. Because I could tell you that, again, I mean, African Americans were moving away from the Republican Party prior to the 1960s. So, I mean, there's a lot going on there, but, don't be ham handed with it because I think the true story is what I told you earlier. I mean, you have a party during the FDR going forward that were making overtures to the African American community, whereas you had a Republican Party that were not. They weren't. And again, people would like to say that you shouldn't have to reach out to one particular group or another group. We're all Americans. Well, that may be true. However, every ethnic group comes with its own unique set of circumstances. So you have to be mindful of all of those things. And I got to tell you, Republicans, you know, uh, they've done a masterful and yeoman job of, I think, just setting the deck chairs with nonsense, right? That people believe because the same group that will tell you that you shouldn't be giving money to migrants, right, and you shouldn't be giving money to Ukrainians, right, are the same people that are cutting money out of the chips program for the American people. So there's that. And there's more of that. When you start really looking at, look, Democrats and Republicans, I've told you this in another broadcast. I had an old political science professor that referred to Democrats as the mommy party and Republicans as the daddy party. When you look at the daddy party, I'm here to tell you, they're not forgiving the American people anything. They never have been. It's always been the mommy party. So keep that in mind. Look, folks, I got things to do. I'm done for the day. Hope you enjoyed the broadcast, and I do look forward to doing this again tomorrow. But I want to, like I said, pick a story every day that I find in the New York Times, Washington Post. I also read through the Wall Street Journal and a few other publications. But, all in all, I just want to, again, just kind of start these conversations again because there's a lot that we have to talk about. At the end of the day, folks, we're all in this together. But you can't sit around and say that we all have the same gripe, we all have the same issues because we don't. And everybody's issue needs to be addressed because, again, we are a multicultural America. And moving forward, that's what the landscape will be. So, anyway, folks, hey, enjoy your afternoon, evening, and I look forward to the conversation tomorrow. Take care.